In addition to creating sub-procedures in Excel, you can also create functions. These are in addition to the functions that Excel provides. These functions are user-defined functions, and they calculate results based on certain conditions that are unique to you. For example, I'm going to close this file Chapter 9, so File Close. I'm going to open up a new file, File New, and Create. I'll press the key F12 and I'll save this file as Chapter 10 and make sure it's a macro-enabled workbook and save. In my Visual Basic Editor, I'm going to click the Insert command in the menu and insert a module. And using the Properties window, I'll name this module Mod Functions. Now, instead of a sub-procedure, we're going to create a function, and again you can type it from scratch if you want, but I'm just going to grab the code from the code file. The code I'm after is a function called commission, so I'm going to highlight this information here, take a copy of it, and put it into my Visual Basic Editor, and bring up Excel. What I need to do before I can test this function is I need to save this file again, so I'll just hit the Save button on my Quick Access toolbar. I also need to enter a value into the spreadsheet so that the function can work with a certain value. So I'll type 50,000. Alright, so what we have here in the Visual Basic Editor is a function called commission. So the word function appears and then the name of the function is next, and just like a sub-procedure, you're not allowed spaces. Inside of the brackets, well, I actually put the parameters that I need to calculate with. So this is working with a value called my sales, and it's expecting it to be a currency value. My sales is ultimately going to be the 50,000 I typed in A1. And then I declare a variable my commission as currency, and then I select the case depending on the sales figure represented in the brackets. If the sales figure is greater than or equal to 10,000, then my commission will work out 30%. If the sales figure happens to be greater than 5,000, then my commission will work out the sales figure at 25%. And if the sales figure happens to be greater than 1,000, then my commission will work it out at 10%, otherwise the commission will be 0. And once the end select is complete, then the variable my commission hands the result over to the actual function, and it will show me what the commission is depending on the sales figure. So let's try this. If I click in B1, and I click the Home tab in the ribbon, and I hit the drop down on the Auto Sum button, I can go to More Functions. Of course, there's a variety of ways to do this. I'm just going this direction. What we have are a series of categories listed here. Most recently used as the default. But if I click this drop down and I scroll to the bottom, there is a user-defined group. Any functions that we create using the Visual Basic Editor appear in the user-defined group, and here's my function commission. And it's also telling me that the commission needs one piece of information, which is the sales figure, my sales. So I'll click OK. I then need to tell it where my sales is, so I click on A1. And it tells me that the commission is going to be 15,000. And I click OK. So I've created my own function called commission using the Visual Basic Editor and using a function procedure rather than a sub-procedure. If I was to change the value in A1 to say 0, the commission would be 0. If I was to change the value to say 1,000, 10% is 100. If I was to change it to 5,000, it recalculates the commission. And again, if I was to change it to 10,000, there's a third in commission. I'd like to create another function. So what I'm going to do here is click below the end function statement, go back to my code file, and in my code file I have another function called income tax. If I select this function and I copy this to my Visual Basic Editor and then go back to Excel, I can put a value for the function to work with. So for example, I might click in A3 and type 50,000. I'll save my file just to be on the safe side, so I'll hit the Save button on my Quick Access toolbar. And now I want to use this function to calculate the income tax depending on my income, and my income is 50,000. If my income is less than or equal to 14,000, then I'll be taxed at the first level, which is 10.5 cents in the dollar. If it's less than 48,000, it'll calculate my tax. If it's less than 70,000, it'll calculate my tax. Otherwise, it'll calculate my tax at a higher level. And ultimately, the answer, my tax, is handed back to the function income tax, which is the name of the function shown here. So if I click in B3, and this time I might go this direction, insert function. If I then go to the user defined group, I can see my income tax function, and it requires my income. So I'll click OK. If I then click on the cell A3, it calculates my tax, and I click OK. So if you have unique calculations, whether they be commission, whether they be valuing certain assets or properties, etc., then you can create your own function and it'll automatically calculate for you.